The mansion was Stonebridge Manor, a colossal testament to old American wealth, now wrapped in the golden hush of a California dusk. Inside, Mr. Alistair Thorne, a millionaire whose empire spanned continents, sat in his sleek, black wheelchair. Years of accumulated riches had given him everything except the one thing he craved. A connection that wasn't bought. His heart, beneath his bespoke Italian suit, carried a crushing emptiness. The arrival of Grace Alistair's world was a parade of efficient, unfeeling staff. But then Grace Mill arrived, young, with hands calloused from honest work and a soul that seemed to absorb light. She was a stark contrast to the mansion's polished sterility. She spoke little, her silence a profound, healing force that words never achieved. Every afternoon, she brought him Earl Grey tea, and unknowingly, a measure of peace. He watched her move graceful, gentle, completely unaware of his intense, solitary gaze. It wasn't the stir of desire that moved him, it was a profound, aching gratitude, pure and unexpected. His cold mornings, once a mere passage of time, began to feel touched by warmth. He started to wonder, could kindness truly mend a wound that millions of dollars couldn't even touch? The vast marble floors of Stonebridge no longer felt like a vault of forgotten joy, but a stage for Grace's quiet motions. His staff whispered that the master was changing. The storm of emotion had begun, brewing silently. For every dusting or tidying she performed, love secretly took its place. Destiny, always a silent partner, waited to turn the page. Grace lived humbly in the staff quarters, her eyes cast low, her heart steady. She had seen the casual cruelty of the ultra-rich before, yet Alistair was different. Behind his permanent, granite frown lived a deep, abiding sorrow. She only offered a quick, soft smile in passing. Her uniform smelled faintly of clean linen soap. Her fingers were cracked from labor. Each step in that intimidating home was a silent prayer to make it through the day. She noticed he never raised his voice when she was near. Sometimes, he'd fumble a spoon just to hear her gentle apology. "Sorry, sir." The air between them grew charged, tender with something unnamed. He started to ask about her life. She would whisper, "There's little to tell, sir." But her eyes, deep and honest, told stories of buried dreams and youthful struggles. He admired her quiet strength, wrapped in soft politeness. One evening, she found him weeping over a faded photograph. Without a word, she simply handed him a napkin. Trembling, he looked up, seeing not a servant, but a soul holding him still. Her face haunted his thoughts that night. Was it affection, or the ache of finally being seen after decades of a hollow life? Grace, too, felt a forbidden warmth bloom. Every moment near him felt dangerous, yet heartbreakingly pure. Two souls, separated by a chasm of class and wealth, began to forge a fragile, silent need for each other. The night the truth broke, the rain fell on Newport Beach, hitting the vast plate glass windows of Stonebridge Manor like 1,000 tears. Thunder hushed the city. Alistair sat by the window, staring into the shadows of his past, shadows he couldn't outrun. Grace entered with a single candle, her voice softer than the rain itself. "Sir, you should rest," she advised, unaware of the turmoil in his heart. He turned his wheelchair toward her, his eyes heavy with memory. "Grace," he whispered, "do you believe love can heal the broken?" Her heart raced. "I believe kindness can," she murmured, placing the tea beside him. He reached for her hand, not with lust, but with the raw desperation of a drowning man. His voice, usually a command, was a barely audible tremor. "I need love. Don't move." Grace froze, not in fear, but disbelief. In that moment, the rich man wasn't a master, he was a broken soul, and she, the servant, held the terrible power to heal or shatter him forever. He couldn't hold back the truth buried for years. The money, it's all meaningless. I'm utterly alone. He confessed the betrayal of his former fiancée, the coldness of his business associates, the ultimate futility of his gilded cage. He revealed his isolation, a naked, vulnerable truth. Grace leaned in to comfort him, her soft hand on his shoulder. "You are not alone anymore, sir," she whispered, her own eyes glistening. What happened next was beyond any forbidden tale. A truth unfolded that neither heart was ready to bear. Love, pain, and ultimate sacrifice collided in the dead of night. The farewell and the search by sunrise, Stonebridge Manor was forever changed. Gracie's room was empty. Her uniform was folded neatly on the chair. She had left before dawn without a single note. The servants whispered, convinced the master had been scorned. But Alistair knew. She had left to protect his reputation, to spare him the scandal of a forbidden attachment. He stared at the teacup she last held, still faintly warm. The air smelled of her faint soap. And now, the sharp ache of farewell. Days bled into weeks, and nights stretched without sleep. Alistair replayed her words. "You are not alone anymore." Doctors came, priests offered prayers, but nothing could mend the chasm of her absence. He had lost wealth before, but this loss was beyond all pain. Love had made him human, and its absence made him tragically fragile again. He rolled his chair to the grand piano and pressed a single key. The melody he began to play was one she used to hum softly, a simple, rustic tune. Tears blurred his vision. He wasn't playing music, he was playing memories. Months later, a letter arrived with a postmark from a tiny town in Tennessee. His hands trembled, the handwriting unmistakably gentle. "Sir, I'm sorry I left, but I couldn't bear to damage your name." Grace wrote of her simple life, finding work helping with children near a small church. "I still pray for you, for peace to find your heart." Her words bled pure, unspoken love through every line. Alistair wept. The next day, he ordered his driver to prepare the vintage Cadillac. "I must see her," he said, his voice shaky but firm. "Sir, the journey is long, your health." The butler warned. "I have nothing left to lose," Alistair interrupted, a quiet fire in his eyes. Eternity's song. The road stretched endlessly across the American landscape. At sunset, he reached the dusty, calm town of Hope's Landing, Tennessee. There, by the quaint brick church, Grace was helping children cross the road. She turned, her eyes widening, tears forming instantly. He smiled weakly from his wheelchair. "You see," he said, his voice cracking with emotion, "I found peace where you are." They embraced. Time stopped. Their silence was their reunion, for a love unspoken had screamed louder than any vow. They moved into a small, sun-drenched cottage, far from the cold pride of Stonebridge. Alistair's health weakened, but his heart had never been stronger. "I used to own a palace," he said one afternoon, watching her cook. "But this, Grace, this feels like home." One quiet night, as the wind whispered through the wooden walls, he held her hand tighter. "Promise me you'll keep living," he whispered, his voice fading. "You gave me life when I had nothing left." She wept. He smiled faintly, his eyes closing. "Then we saved each other." By dawn, his chair stood empty, but his face looked profoundly at peace. Grace buried him beneath a lone oak tree where the sun always touched, placing his final letter beside him, their love sealed forever. She knew death couldn't end what was never of this world. Alistair Thorne had wealth that could buy everything but a moment of peace. Grace Miller had nothing but kindness. Yet, she gave him the world in silence. Their story remains a quiet reminder that the greatest riches lie in compassion, not gold. And sometimes, the ones we think come to serve are truly sent to save us. Love, in its purest form, is not about possession, it is about healing. Would you like me to tell you a similar, but completely different story of forbidden love and sacrifice?